the day?
Yeah, actually, we were able to meet as a working group. So we were able to take some of the feedback that we had, and we were able to update the reconciliation dashboard, which everyone should have received in plenty of time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the reconciliation dashboard, and I'm going to share the changes that we made to the formatting. And I'm also going to just highlight what the task force working group reconciled or resolved or is recommending based on the conversation that we had at the previous meetings. Okay, so Lisa, thank you for giving me share capability. Okay. Okay, so you should all be able to see the reconciliation dashboard here. The new format, the first column just talks about the plan draft. That didn't really change in terms of the content. But what we did is we kind of flipped the subcommittee previously, the staff comments were in column C, and the subcommittee recommendation was in, or what we were recommending was in column B. So that is kind of flip-flopped, and the action is where we stand with those specific plan draft items, and then any notes stay.
Lynn, your audio is, you might want to go off camera. Your audio is staggering.
Mine is. You want me to go off?
Well, yeah, Lynn, you're going to have to go off. Your audio is not clear at all.
So what you have in column A is what the plan says. Column B is the staff's reaction.
Discussion
Column
item.
C is what the is recommending.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Stop video. No, it's me. It's me, man. It's not you. Is that better? Is that better? Is this better?
Yes,
I stopped my video.
You. Yes.
Right. So
yes.
Are you all able to hear me now?
Reconcile.
Are you all
reconcile?
Okay, thank you.
What?
So the other thing we did is that we reconciled. So the reconciled asterisk means the note is down at in the footnote area that indicates agreement between the working group and county staff for these items. So the ones that we went back and revisited after our meeting, so we have the recommendations. So the first one was the word choice for the Dulles Toll Road or the access road, and the working group is recommending that we just use Dulles Toll Road as it is in the chapter draft. I want to go back. We're going to go back to village centers. This was actually the first agenda item that I wanted to go through with the full task force. We did have an opportunity to discuss the language and the working group's recommendation and the resolution to this. And we do recognize that, you know, our working group doesn't always have 100% consensus. And I think John Mooney understands that with working with Mr. Penniman and Mr. Maupin, that you don't always get 100% agreement. And this is one of the items that we did not have 100% agreement, but we did have a majority that felt that it is important that we recommend less than 20 DUs per acre, and that the 50 DUs is incorrect. So that is what was presented in the original draft that was presented to the task group or the task force. And we're hoping that we will get a commitment from staff that will ensure that any redevelopment in the village centers as part of a future amendment would be less than 20 dwelling units per acre. The opposition of the dissenting vote felt that the dwelling units per acre should be much less. That would fall more into the low multifamily housing specifications for dwelling units. And we know that we have experience with tall oaks, and that was accomplished through a plan amendment. And yeah, we know that 20 dwelling units per, less than 20 dwelling units per acre is problematic, but it is still going to require a plan amendment. So are there any discussion items on this? Anything that any of the task force members wants to add, or the working group members? Okay.
Lynn, I've got a
the-
question about the standard line, the standard category is 13 to 20, and that includes 20. Why are you saying it's less than 20?
Because they may want to do 10. So we don't want to say that, you know, it has to be 13 to 20. We want to say, if, you know, if a plan comes in at 9 dwelling units per acre, or 10 dwelling units per acre, that would be acceptable.
And why don't you say 20 or less?
It's
I think he's just saying if it's less
it's less than 20 dwelling units per
20,
acre.
20 or less, 20 or less, so that 20 is included in the number, not excluded from the number is all he's trying to ask.
I will bring that back to the working group and we can discuss it.
Why did staff recommend that it should be 50 dwelling units per acre?
If Bill Mayland is on the line, I'll invite him to answer that question.
The
Jen?
reason the last time there was no units, but there was nothing was stated. So if nothing is stated, then the staff goes to the maximum, which is 50. So that's so now we're a little bit farther along. We know the relationships, and we think 20 is the right number.
John, could
Great
you
news.
could you comment on Mike Jennings?
I think it makes very little difference, to be honest. If you want to say 20 or less,
It was actually David Vanel that suggested that.
Right.
do we want to just go with that and be done with this?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
And then would it be 20 or fewer? Not to be a grammarian, but I don't know. Stop laughing, John Carter. You're always catching this stuff.
All right, let me, we will take this. So we'll say that there's agreement.
Yeah, I think it could be dealt with pretty quickly here, really.
If you just say up to, you don't need to worry about the grammarian. Up to 20.
What's wrong with 20 units or less? I don't know what's wrong. Is there anything?
It doesn't say
Nothing
20
wrong with
units
it.
or less, John, on this page.
Okay. All right, I think that the working group that's on this call agrees to the 20 DUs or less or fewer, whatever. So thank you, David. The other item that we did a revised subcommittee recommendation based on the previous discussion that we had on the land uses exempt from density calculations. If you'll recall, the proposed text recommended deleting exemption for hotels, retail, and public uses from the density calculation. And pursuant to our previous discussions, the working group met and agreed that exemptions, the recommendation will be that exemptions will accrue to indoor recreation and education facilities in the TSAs.
Yeah, this is Bill. I mean, I think,
Hi, Bill.
I think that the existing comp plan's provision for an exemption for retail, first floor retail, and you can add public recreation, institutional education, all that, that's fine. But those exemptions should stand. They're important for enlivening the area, making sure that there is a better chance we'll actually see good quality activities that are beneficial both to people in the TSAs and people who want to come visit the TSAs. They don't contribute to peak hour traffic, and they don't contribute to population. So giving that exemption is important. It will help achieve the large picture goal of having, you know, a high level of development around the transit stations.
So you're believing that the plan language as is should remain?
The plan language as is, I don't know if it needed some additional language that you were thinking of in terms of public recreation and educational, but that, throw them all in, that's fine. But retail and hotel, there was a good reason for it, and it's first floor. So it's not.
Okay. We had quite a discussion on this, Bill Penniman, and as Mark Looney pointed out, that those guidelines were given before any of the TSA areas were developed, when we wanted that special exemption to promote it. We don't have that situation anymore. People are fighting to get in. And we also had the discussion, if you will remember, there is no salient definition of retail. So you can have gun stores, ammo stores, adult bookstores, hookah lounges, and all kinds of stuff you actually wouldn't want to give an exemption to. So I much prefer that we acknowledge that the TSAs are hot development areas. And if there's going to be retail, it's going to be there. It's market driven. We're not going to get retail that doesn't want to come there, and they're not going to not come because they're not getting an exemption. So that is why we decided to delete retail. It did have a place at the beginning. It no longer has a place, and we can't define what it is. And it includes a lot of things you probably don't want. So that was the rest of the logic to including education, which we absolutely don't have enough of, and indoor recreation, which we absolutely don't have enough of. These are two needs that we would like to give some extra bonus for, so to speak. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Tammy.
So let me respond to that. The issue of whether you're going to have hookah bars. We could have hookah bars in town center, which has retail too. As retail is generally understood, and if Fairfax County wants to limit hookah bars, I'm sure it can do that.
No,
I don't think that's not a realistic reason for doing it. The other thing to keep in mind is whatever may have been applied for so far, we get resistance from developers who say, 75-25, for example. That's where most of the development is still remaining to be done. 75-25 is, we can't do it. Retail's a burden. Well, at least let's make sure that the retail is somewhat less of a burden, because we really want to encourage it. And it'll help to enliven the area, and we're going to need it.
Remember how this is worded in the existing plan, and Mark Looney reminded of us last time. When you have a percentage, whether it's 75-25 or 50-50, 50, the retail is excluded from that percentage. It's not additional FAR, it's just excluded. So you could go up a little bit on the 75-25. In the case of schools and universities, that was a bump up or increase. And there was a limit on, I believe it was 40%, and I don't remember what
40%.
how much it was. So and the hotel, we were recommending not giving a bonus of any kind for a hotel, since we have 9 of them already planned for that range from small ones to big ones. So anyway, I'm not sure what and I guess we're contemplating adding an indoor recreation as a benefit.
Right. And so from a planning perspective, Bill, I mean, we've really looked at this and what is appropriate for us now. We know that the previous language was written for conditions, a snapshot of where we were then. And we feel that as a working group, we feel that this is a reconciliation from our previous stance of exempting everything from density calculations. We've gone back and added indoor recreation and education to the mix.
So
If you preserve first floor retail, I'd be fine.
So if we're contemplating, so it's first floor retail that would be excluded from the percentages, and then as its bonus, and then for education, schools and universities and recreation, those would get our increase. That's the language, I guess, that the task force is contemplating.
John, I think it's the exemption is from the FAR. The retail would still count towards the 25% or the 50%, but first floor retail wouldn't count towards the FAR.
Okay,
Yep.
that's different than the last plan.
No, actually, the last plan did exempt it from the FAR.
No, that when Mark explained this, it was exempted from the percentage.
Actually,
To me.
I'll find you the language and send it to you, but it's in there.
All right.
It's on, this is Bill Manning, it's on page 107 of the comp plan. And as John said, hotels, retail institutions are exempt from the non-residential use category. That's the mixed percentage.
Yes.
Only institutional is exempt from the FAR.
Yeah.
So the institutional units, we get the bonus. So if you had a max 3 FAR and you did an institutional use, it took you to 3.2, that would still be in accordance with the plan because you get the bonus to be able to go above for institutional use. The percentage, the 75-25, is where the hotel, retail, and institutional also can be exempt from.
So I guess we're contemplating leaving that the way it is, adding FAR for schools and universities and indoor recreation.
Right. So as you mentioned, John, currently institutional uses and quasi-public uses,
Yeah.
which I think would probably already include may not include indoor, but would be similar to indoor, already excluded from that. So maybe it might be a clarification more than a change.
So if I add FAR exemptions will accrue, is that clearer?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And there's like a 40% maximum, I think, Bill.
I believe it's 30%.
30%.
I think that's what your language is currently.
I don't see the maximum offhand the plan. Maybe it's elsewhere. I'm just looking at the on 107 of the current plan. I don't see a limitation
It's in the
on where that.
draft, the latest draft.
But I'm sorry, I'm talking about the current approved plan versus the task force version. I don't believe in an exemption there, but I don't recall offhand anyone using that exception to go above the plan range for institutional uses
No, I don't either.
or quasi-public use.
That's a pretty big. So maybe we can just leave it where the plan said before in terms of that, the maximum. Whether it's 30 or 40, I'm not sure, but we'll just leave it, whatever it says now.
So what does Lynn need to do here?
Just put as
Oh.
specified in the existing plan. With the as specified in the existing plan. Yeah, there you go. That's another way to do it.
So are
Okay.
we excluding retail or including it?
We're leaving it the way it is in the existing plan, which says you get, you can change the percentages, the 75, 25, if it's retail. So instead of the 25, you could go up a little bit, but that would take away from the 75
So it's a use mix.
to use mix. Yes. For retail only.
So the use mix for retail is retained, or it's just the language. Okay.
Well, it looks like all you would need to do is cross out in this page 107, or at least the language, is cross out hotel uses and leave
Yeah.
retail and institutional uses to be exempted. That'd be the easiest thing.
Well, then put Bill's thing of first floor, because I'm telling you, this is a problem in
We
some
could say
communities.
first floor. We could say, yeah.
Well, again, as you know, Tammy, on the P and Z, we're always trying to get, excuse me, retail. And if it doesn't always happen on the first floor, sometimes it can be the second floor. So I'm reluctant to do that, but I'm just one person here.
I'd like to vote on this because I don't like the idea that retail is such a huge, I don't think we need it. I think we're there. And we're bringing in tons of residences. If businesses, retail businesses are not going to flow to their market, then there's nothing that this plan will change. They're going to go where their business is. Don't you agree? I mean, that's the way I look at it. And I'm afraid of the other retail that y'all seem to think is silly, but neighbors of this other retail don't think it's silly because they've suffered from it. So
Where are you talking about, Tammy? Where are the hookah bars going that are pissing people off?
they're down in the Lee district, in the well, now Lee is now Franconia, but Springfield area. There are in Chantilly that there are problems with it.
Are these urban transit districts?
We're not talking about urban transit per se. We're talking about your well, I guess we are for this, but they could go here. I mean,
But if they were, again, as I said before, if this was such a major problem, we would be seeing these places pop up now because we have these urban districts and they're not. I actually
they're in
do.
Masons.
I don't want to wade in. Let me try to wade in.
This crazy talk.
The retail, it's where it applies, as Bill Penniman was saying, it applies mostly in the 75-25 area, where it's 75% residential and 25% retail. I mean, non-residential, which could be retail. So you're already getting the retail there. This allows you a slight revision to the mix. So you could go 74-26 if the addition was retail. So the retail's already there. So you really, there's not a density increase. The overall density stays the same. That's how it's worded now. So maybe this is not so bad if you do it this way. This is unlike the university where you actually get a FAR bonus. And in theory, they wouldn't be there without the bonus. In the case for retail, the retail is already there. You could just do a slight bit more. So I don't know whether that helps. I was trying to be helpful.
The thing
Okay.
of it is that
Does that work?
retail, if they bring in retail, there's no guarantee it's going to be affordable for everyone.
No, that's true, but the retail would
That's true.
already be there. This allows you to do just a little bit more. And in return, you can do a little bit less.
And this only pertains to the 75-25 areas,
Well, it would pertain to everywhere, but you know, the
including
50/50
village
is
centers, because we certainly didn't get first floor retail at Tall Oaks.
well, this is only in the TSAs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
But it could all potentially
No,
say
these
50/50 area too.
This the 75/25, that's a goal, and there are times where those things get changed slightly. 76, 24, that kind of thing happens. So what we're doing is pretty much what's already happening, or already could happen.
Okay.
So I
Thank you.
just
I
offer
think
that as
this is
as a
where
way to
I
resolve
think
this.
that we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. I think that what I would like to do, I've been negligent in going back to get a vote from the task force on the village centers with the amendment to David Vanel's suggestion that we change the verbiage from less than 20 DUs per acre, that we change that language to 20 DUs or less, or fewer, whatever that correct
You
verbiage
didn't
is.
get a vote, but you got a no opposition on the whole thing, so.
Well,
could you
I
just
think
move
that
forward?
if it's okay with Walter, I would like to get a vote
All right,
on
okay.
these items.
Sure.
Is that okay, Walter?
Yeah, that's fine, Lynn.
Thank you.
Lynn,
Can
could I
we
just ask?
clarify what we're voting on?
We're going back and voting on village centers.
Okay.
Could you
Just-
I'm sorry. Just a clarification. As I read it, there were no changes to Lake Ann. Is that right?
Correct.
Changes to Lake Ann.
Well, there was one change, I think, that it pertained to the fellowship house, because that has been developed. So we made sure that that language was updated.
Lynn, are we going to vote on every item in this?
We need to vote on village centers. That is a subsection.
Okay.
I'm still not sure what we're voting on because I think we've been talking about hookah bars for the past 15
Well,
minutes.
I wanted to, so we're finished with this. I want to go back. I've been remiss in getting us to vote on the subchapter of village centers, which was left over from 2 meetings ago. We've come back, we had discussion, and it was my oversight. I apologize. We should have taken a vote before we moved on to the hookah
So Lynn,
bars.
this isn't about uses. This is about dwelling units, right?
Right, right.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
And it's just
I
20,
move that we take, that we accept the village centers recommendation of less of
20
20
DUs or less.
or less or fewer.
Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, thank you, Jan, and thank you for saying fewer grammatically. So it's been moved. Is there a second?
I
Second.
second that motion.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. If folks could be ready to put up their electronic hand. Hopefully everybody remembers how to do that.
I think Jan's hand is already up, but I guess she's voting yay.
Okay, all
Yes,
right.
I am.
All right. So all those in favor of the recommendation that the village centers, not including Lake Ann, include the plan language of 20 dwelling units or fewer, please raise your hand electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 10 in favor. Go ahead and drop your hands. Okay, folks put their hands down. Everyone opposed to that language, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, see 2 against, and take your hands down. And all abstaining, please put your hand up. Abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I see 2 abstentions. So that passes.
Thank you, Walter.
Probably ought to change the text in yellow there to 20 DUs or fewer.
Fewer.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm sorry for that interruption. So I think that we have addressed the concerns that Bill Penniman raised. The current guidance for the working group is that we pull language as specified in the existing plan. This is the use mix. For retail, language remains, omitting hotel uses and including first floor retail in the 75-25 areas in the TSAs. Is that?
So now if you go to the yellow, Lynn, so you would eliminate the third sentence, remove retail and hotel. I guess you were removing hotel from this language, not the retail. In the last column, column E.
Oh, yes.
So the retail, it's in the third sentence. So remove just the hotel from the language.
I could live with that.
I
All right.
object.
Yeah, that,
We're talking gun stores and all kinds of stuff. People are fixated on hookah. That's not the only objectionable retail. Retail has a huge definition that you want to ignore. I just don't think Reston is the place where we want not to encourage something, but
The-
okay.
Tammy, I think the thought that there could be a gun store in downtown Reston is just
Filling.
nobody in their right mind is going to propose or approve
Of
of that.
Of course not until they do. So
Well,
do you want it in the plan? Do you
No,
want, or
I would also like not to see drive-throughs down there either.
okay.
There,
So, I mean, I may be in a minority, but I've been listening to the zoning cases, and this is from which I gather my opinion. So I agree with you. I would hope that would never happen. I would like to exclude a bonus for it. That's my point, because it has a huge retail has a huge definition.
Yeah, but it
So-
also includes restaurants and the things that we absolutely have to have.
Of course, and those are going to follow their market. Bill,
Well,
that's ridiculous.
But we
As
can make it more possible
discussed
for it to
last
follow the
time.
market.
This language was put in to develop, not we are developed. We are a prime destination. You no longer need exemptions for retail.
But
I
low value
completely
businesses,
disagree.
low value businesses like hookah bars are going to go off to low cost neighborhoods. If you think it's this valuable, don't worry about it.
Okay,
The fact that
worry about it.
the fact that we've got a lot more building to do in the development of the TSA areas, that's an awful lot of retail space to fill, and that retail space defines how that area or those areas are going to work and work well, and
Or not.
so
Or not.
so I don't see any rationale for excluding retail from coming in there and giving them that exemption. I just, we're not going to get businesses that we don't want.
Can I ask a question? Didn't we hear last time from Mark Mooney that no one's used this?
Right.
Bill, is that correct? I just think we're beating this one to death. Can we
Okay,
just?
I surrender. I
I
surrender.
don't think you need to surrender. I don't think there's no need for it. No one's used it. I'm agreeing with you, Tammy. I don't think we need it in here. But we don't need to, if it hasn't been used, it hasn't done what it was intended to do. And, we certainly have enough hotels, so let's remove that and let's just move on.
I disagree that it's never been used. I mean, I think developers have they've set aside retail, and at least on the cases I've seen, and so they could have that excluded from the mixed use calculation. So I don't know why we're saying, I don't think that's what Mark Looney said last week.
And Mike, I don't think that's what he said either, and he's not here. And so, and quite frankly, I think we're on a planning exercise here, and I don't think it really matters whether folks have used it or not. The question is it a good addition to the plan? Not addition, it's already in there. Is it a good continuation of the plan?
Do we want to vote on this? Get it out of the way.
Do we have to vote on every one of these? I mean,
Well, we might if we want reconciliation fast.
Yes.
Before you vote, I think you should change the language. It's in that column E again.
right.
It only applies to the PRC area. It would not apply at the convenience center.
PRC, do you mean TSA?
TSA, I meant TSA.
Thank you.
Oops.
Whoa, now I am gonna get up on my chair. No, we are voting on it.
Wake up, John.
Well, it's here in the recommendations, John. So it's here in the recommendations. FAR exemptions will accrue to
Okay.
indoor recreation. So pulling language as specified in the existing plan, use mix for retail language remains, omitting hotel uses and including
Okay.
first floor retail in the 75-25 areas in the TSA.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Can you make that motion?
Do you want to make a motion, Jan?
I want you to make that motion. I can't remember that.
It's on the screen.
It is. Well, okay. I move that we pull language as specified in the existing plan. Use mix for retail language remains, omitting hotel uses and including first floor retail 75 to 25 areas in TSA.
I second that.
Okay, it's been made and seconded.
And before y'all vote, I hope you're reading the chat where Mark Malcolm has said in the Herndon area, there are 42 hookah bars. So, and this includes massage businesses and, a whole bunch of stuff. So, okay, let's vote.
Thank you.
Okay, so other discussion on the motion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor of the language as articulated by Jan, please raise your electronic hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 8 in favor. All right, lower your hands. All those opposed to the language as articulated by Jan, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see 4 opposed, all abstaining. Okay, everybody take your hand down. And now all abstaining on this, raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and 2 abstentions. So it passes 8 in favor, 4 opposed, and 2 abstentions. Passes.
Okay, we'll get that incorporated. Thank you. The next item This is for Reston Town Center North. So this was based on our previous discussion. So we have a new recommendation for I think our previous recommendation was 100,000 square feet of non-residential. The new recommendation is 150,000 square feet of non-residential, including ancillary retail and health facilities, and then 1,000 housing units. I think previously we were at 940.
940, yeah.
So this is a new recommendation for Reston Town Center North. I know staff is requesting to add 250,000 square feet of non-residential uses for Inova. So this was,
Then
this
could we
is
get somebody from staff to explain their approach?
So Bill Malin, the 250 was a previous number that Nova had put in there. It's my understanding that they're comfortable with 150,000 square feet. So it's more of a statement of, what changes we're making. Is it still in accordance with the plan that Nova is moving forward? So my understanding, and I think Tim Sampson's in attendance, and he can certainly clarify that, is 150 is what they're looking for non-residential, and 1,000 units, I believe, is what they're looking for residential. I did have a question. I know John Carter mentioned to me there was some additional language that staff had suggested to you related to NS Reston. I don't see that in the subcommittee recommendation, so I'm not sure if that's been included or not.
what was that? Sorry, Bill, what was the additional language?
So the NS
Yes,
Reston
yes, is that
site.
the public space, the park,
No, that is in there.
Okay.
it's already in there. I just like to say one other thing about going up like this to the 1,000 and the 150. That takes the FAR just about exactly 1.5 FAR, which would match with the FARs that we've done almost everywhere outside the quarter mile to transit. So I think it's a good set of numbers myself.
Is somebody here from Inova?
Tim Sampson's on the attendees list.
There's a hand up for Tim Sampson.
Can I ask something? Just, can we make sure that as we're doing these motions that we state very clearly what the motion is? I think we're talking about a lot of different things, and sometimes the motion doesn't come through very clearly.
Oh, I was relying on the video recording. We
Well,
can certainly capture the,
Well, in this case, it's very clear. It's right there on
Yeah.
the screen.
yeah, it would help a lot of us if we knew
Yeah.
what we're voting on.
Yeah, sure, Shane.
There's a
We'll
lot
try
of
to-
discussion that doesn't purport to the actual motion.
so this, yeah, so right now, I do not believe there is a motion on the table, but the new recommendation is 150,000 non-residential square feet, including ancillary retail and health facilities, and 1,000 housing units. And this is what accrues to the Inova blocks.
Let's hear from Tim. I think he's
Hi.
taking himself
Yeah.
off mute.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting me in. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, that Inova accepts this recommendation, and we appreciate the direction you've headed here. You heard me talk about a higher number of units last week, but 1,000, and we understand that 1,000 too is the not including the affordable and workforce housing component of that, but this is consistent with where we'd like to head, and the 150 as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey, Lynn?
Yes,
Could I ask a question about the health facilities? Does cutting this to 150 non-residential square feet, 150,000 non-residential square feet, impinge upon county's plans to put in a larger health facility in that space? Is that something that
well,
they're going to have to dial back their plans for that?
I don't think so. And frankly, we are increasing. The new recommendation is an increase because the task force recommendation and what's in the plan right now, or in the draft rather, is 100,000. So we're increasing to 150,000.
And Lynn, if I may, it's Tim again.
Hi,
I
Tim.
understood the question might be more related to what the county could do, and I think that this 150 would be solely on the Inova side, so it would not be a limitation on what the county could do on the other side.
That's
Thank you, Tim.
correct.
Does that answer your question, David?
It does.
Okay. Do we want to take is there a motion to?
Hey, Lynn.
Yes,
I would happily make a motion that we approve this section with the new recommendation of 150,000 non-residential square feet, including ancillary retail and health facilities, and 1,000 housing units.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll second that. I'm getting an
Thank you,
habit
Gary.
of seconding.
Could I ask a clarification? Tim said that the 1,000 doesn't include ADU and WDU. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think, Walter, I think we're ready for a vote.
Okay, want to make sure, is everybody clear on the vote? So it's the,
Let me just add, so we'll say
there we go.
excluding.
Hey, Lynn,
That
as
better?
the motion maker, I accept that revision.
Thank you,
And
Chris.
I second that.
Gary.
And you're
Okay,
good,
great.
Gary, the seconder, okay.
So what we're voting on is what's on the screen, right? And
Right,
Tim.
the
Yes.
subcommittee recommendation, yeah.
Okay.
Subcommittee recommendation. Yep. All right.
Okay, all right. So if everybody is okay with that, let's go to a vote. So everyone who is supportive, who votes in favor of this language that's highlighted, the subcommittee recommendation, please put your hand up electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 11 in favor. Go ahead and put your hands down. Okay, so electronically put your hands up if you are opposed. Opposed in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, I see Tim Sampson's hands up, but that's not counting. So otherwise,
Yeah.
they're
My
no
apologies. My apologies. I'm
That's okay, Tim.
behind the tech curve here. I certainly don't oppose that.
I didn't think so. And all abstaining, please put your hand up electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and 1 abstention. That carries, Lynn.
Thank you. Wonderful. Moving right along. Okay. The housing at the Wheelie Metro Station. So this was reconciled with staff. So there's really no reason to review this. The proposed plan allows housing to be included between the existing TOD area and the South Lakes overpass. Staff supported adding housing in this area. The draft language represents the task force recommendations. And this does, just as a note, this pertains to the area known as Samuel Morse Drive or Lofts 2. I think in the current plan language, this is limited to commercial or non-residential.
Industrial, yeah.
Industrial. Thank you, Bill. So this is a welcome change. The Roland Clark public uses. I think this was our endpoint from last time. The recommendation was indoor public uses are considered non-residential by the task force. The next item
Hey,
base
Lynn?
density. Yes,
Lynn, this is Bill. Just define an indoor public use. Is that something open to the public or publicly owned?
yes. It is open to the public, but it is indoor. It is not an outdoor athletic field.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions on that?
Did you want to vote on those two?
Yes, I thought we had voted on this last time with this, that was our endpoint, but yes, let's go ahead and have a vote on this item.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion with the specific recommendation?
I will go ahead and make the motion that the Roland Clark public uses in the plan draft, that the plan allows public uses to be allowed to meet the requirement for non-residential uses. So we would add language that the square footage of the indoor public uses and facilities could be applied toward the percentage of expected 25% non-residential uses to provide a public benefit to the broader Reston community.
Can I ask, sorry for clarification, because isn't this just contradicting what was just recently done about indoor recreation uses would not count as part of the mix, but in Roland Clark it does? Maybe I'm just missing that clarification on my standpoint.
I thought we were talking about
I thought of that
hotel.
too, Bill. I thought of that. I guess you would, in theory, have your choice to have it count or not have it count. So if you wanted to go above the 25%, then you would exclude it. But if you want to keep it at 25%, then you would include it. Kind of wacky wording, I guess, but I think that's what it's intended.
So it's the choice of the developer, where it's
Yeah.
inclusive or exclusive of the
Yes.
mix.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you. It's a little strange, but it's okay.
Oh, that wouldn't be the first thing.
So there is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion of the motion?
I'd like staff to explain their comment in staff comments column, yeah.
Okay.
The comment there, I believe, is this is not related to my comments or other comments from, I believe it was the Park Authority raising concerns about the particular use. I was not part of those discussions, so I can't go into more detail about that. As my understanding, in the Park Authority had raised previous concerns about a public indoor recreation and the need to have it here, but I don't know more than that.
I think the issue was whether the park wanted to run it or not. And I
think you're correct, John, yes.
If it's certain uses like pickleball, they didn't want to run that, but this doesn't really have a bearing on that. This isn't saying.
Well, then just clarify for me, why would we want to give the developer the, as I understood it, a couple of minutes ago, why would we say that that's a good idea to give the developer the choice of what's in it for the county if we give the developer that choice?
Well, in this area, the requirement is 75-25, 75% retail, 25% non-residential. It really isn't much of a vote because public uses are non-residential.
It's 75% residential.
Yeah, 75% residential.
You said retail, so.
Non-residential.
Okay.
Public uses are non-residential, so that this really, the only difference might be is if someone wanted to go above the 25%, then the other provision applies. Is that confusing enough?
Plenty, yeah, thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion on the motion?
Can we repeat the motion, please?
Yes, Glenn, can you repeat it?
Yes, so the motion is to add language to Roland Clark, and this pertains to the public uses, the square footage of the indoor public uses and facilities could be applied towards the percentage of expected 25% non-residential uses to provide a public benefit to the broader Reston community.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Okay, everybody understand that? Okay, everyone in favor of the motion, please raise your hand electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 11 in favor. Go ahead and take your hands down. Now, all opposed to the motion, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, one opposed. All right, then all abstaining on the motion, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 2 abstentions, so that passes.
Thank you, Walter. Okay. So moving on to, where were we? Oh, we had gone over the base density. So that was reconciled. Staff voiced no objection to the recommendation. So the task force draft language removes base plan language except in Lake Ann Village Center. So that's their baseline. So we are calling that reconciled, that staff and the working group are in agreement. The next item is elimination.
Lynn, could
Yes,
I ask a question?
of
What-
course.
In the language, it says the proposed plan eliminates the option to apply base density in the TOD areas instead of meeting the recommended ratio in the TSAs. Does this elimination apply to both the TOD and the larger TSAs, or?
No, just in the TOD area. It applies to just the TOD.
Okay.
And the 0.5 FAR is for the non-residential. You can do 30 dwelling units per acre or 0.5 FAR of non-residential.
Yeah, and you're eliminating that. Okay. I just wanted the clarification. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, elimination of the new text for the Herndon Station area in the draft plan. The working group had included revised text that was provided by Mark Malcolm. And the proposed language was deleted by staff. I don't know if they did that because they just noticed that it was different than what was in the original approved plan, but the revised text was discussed and approved at the task force meetings, and the working group feels that the new language pertaining to the Herndon Station area should remain. So the recommendation is that the language should remain as presented to the task force.
Does the staff have any further comment on the language?
It was more in our evaluation that the plan has general guidance about compatibility, and it wasn't necessary to repeat it within each sub-district. So it wasn't necessarily a disagreement about wanting developments to be compatible, especially when it's adjacent to a low development area. It's just more is it necessary to repeat one spot, or is it necessary to repeat every single spot? So it was more of a stylistic change of opinion.
Thank you, Bill. So
Malcolm, just to let the staff know, because of the language that had been there before in the 2018 and 2014, you have a residential neighborhood immediately adjacent. This has been several different neighborhoods through Reston being close, like the ones that were close to Wheelie. It's getting it so that building heights do not become extreme and that type of thing. So with that, one, the Pulte development is in line with with the Polo Fields neighborhood across from Herndon, just trying to prevent anything from being excessive. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the color commentary greatly. All right, may I go ahead and just make a motion that the plan text as presented to the task force remain, and that the task force, the comprehensive plan task force, take a vote? Or I guess we need a second.
Lynn, we're voting on 12, right?
Yes.
Seconded by Chris Daniel.
No, you're
Thank
voting
you,
on,
Chris.
yeah, 12.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry.
Is
I'm
it
having-
12 or 13?
12.
12.
12.
Are we voting yet?
Yes.
All
Okay.
right. Does everybody understand the
I didn't
motion?
hear a countdown.
Well, does everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Motion is
Okay.
to accept the text as presented in the plan draft.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go ahead and vote. Get ready to put your electronic hands up. All in favor of the motion, please put your hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see 9 in favor. Go ahead and put those hands down. All opposed to the motion, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See 3 opposed. Okay, then we'll call for abstentions. All abstaining, please put your hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 2 abstentions. That motion carries.
Thank you, Walter. I appreciate it. Now, the next item, we're on row number 13. This is the residential and non-residential calculations. Now, this is something that staff is continuing to review and compare. We had several meetings with Bill and Clara Johnson regarding the numbers. But I will note that during the consideration by staff, there was a Chamber of Commerce meeting that was held on Monday, June 6th. Many of the task force members were in attendance, and a recommendation was made that, and we're calling this reconciled with the chamber. And I think it may have been Mike Jennings. Was that you that made that recommendation?
Yeah. Yep.
So the draft plan language that you all have received in the latest plan draft does include the new language, and I can just pull that up so you can all look at it. I remember, sorry if I'm giving anybody a headache.
Yeah, but the important language is that these numbers are
Here.
not a cap.
So here's the bolded. This is the new language that was added. Let's make sure y'all can see it. So this just describes what these numbers, what the function of these numbers performs. So the numbers provide the analytic tool necessary to calculate the infrastructure to support the estimated land use, including, but not limited to, number of elementary, middle, and high schools, adequate parkland, including the number of rectangular and diamond recreation fields, police and fire facilities, water and sewer service, and the impact on the transportation system. Further, and this is the recommendation, the recommended language from Mike Jennings and others from the chamber. This chart is an estimate of the population outcome based on assuming a 20% reduction in the future built environment plan for Reston. The actual density maximums, sorry, this is the language here. The actual density maximums and mix of land uses can be found at the beginning of the parcel or area stated at the beginning of each section of the chapter. The numbers provide a method to keep track of the progress of development and to make any amendments as necessary to the infrastructure or land uses recommended in the Reston Comprehensive Plan. These numbers, or the numbers, and notes are not intended, something's wrong with this. These numbers, and notes are not intended to be used as a top limit on the total number of dwelling units that can be approved and delivered within Reston.
This might be minor, Lynn. I appreciate all that. Is that, as you know, as it shows in your spreadsheet, I said a top or cap, and or cap was taken out. And again, it may be minor, but I'd like to leave or cap in there. Top limit or cap. Thank you.
Okay, any problems with that revision from the working group?
Lynn, I don't have a problem with the revision. I do recommend that Supervisor Alcorn consider a follow-on motion that, as was done in the 2017 revision of the Tyson's Corner Plan, that actual development and population be monitored, and that monitoring could lead to a reexamination of the comp plan recommendation.
Appreciate that, John. Yeah, somebody could capture that one way or another, so we don't lose it.
So could you, I can add that to the notes.
And do note the parallel, the proposed parallel with the comp plan revision. I believe it was 2017, Walter, wasn't it, in Tyson's Corner?
Well, actually, it was, I believe, part of the original approval back in 2010 as well. It's a refinement of that in 2017.
Okay.
So I think it was in both.
So would this be a, can I
Mhm.
ask a question, Lynn? Would this be a
Yeah.
follow-on motion or included in the plan text?
I'm proposing it as a follow-on motion.
Right.
A second.
Well, you know, before we even do that, I mean, I just want to make sure everyone's really clear what we're doing with this haircut language. Because at least when Jennifer and I have discussed it, you know, from, you know, a planning perspective, it just seems very concerning that we're just assuming a 20%, but I don't think that we really have the data at this point to back that up. And so we're ultimately hamstringing ourselves as far as our public, you know, services from parks and schools and planning for possibly a lower population number. So I mean, I personally am opposed to the haircut as a whole, and would like to see the language removed.
I guess I have to disagree with you, Michelle. I think the number needs to be in here so we get a context. A lot of people have been, you know, using higher numbers I think the number in here is high. I think the 110 to 120 is not going to occur. And we are probably going above what we need to say here. I think John's number is 116. And if you look at a lot of different other ways of looking at this, the number would be lower than that. So I think given the numbers, and I can remember lots of people talking about the higher numbers, and we had a lot of conversations.
I remember being in a meeting with Fred Selden.
And I think we're gonna just portray things for lots of people. If we don't have something in here, it gives some context to
And
where Reston is going.
and while I understand what you're saying, nothing in here ensures that that's the result. All that this is
No.
ensuring is that we're not planning for that result. But ultimately, they could be approved for that much, and there's no guarantee that they wouldn't come back and rebuild and add more.
No, this is a cap. This is,
It's not a cap.
It's not a cap. That's
No.
If I could suggest, Michelle, that I think the original motion to adopt this language is fine, but then you would want to vote in favor of John Mooney's follow-on to have the monitoring.
I think that if the task force wants to continue with a haircut, that again only ensures that we will not plan for what could be a possibility. It does not ensure anything else. If the task force votes for that, then I think Mr. Mooney's follow-on is required. But ultimately, when we're really talking about the population numbers here, once they've come in for brought an application for rezoning and gotten approval, there's no walking it back. So I just want to be clear that this is what's going on here.
If I could add, John Carter and I, Commissioner Carter and I had several meetings with staff, and in comparing numbers, the numbers are incredibly close. I will let John expand on that, but the numbers that staff was reviewing with us were very close to the numbers that you're looking at in the draft. Sorry, Tammy, did you have something?
Yes, to Michelle's point, and I think what she's saying is very important. But Michelle, I think also the and Charles Colby could talk to this big time because he's public facilities and he's contacted or been contacted by all of these agencies. I believe they use figures of approvals and the schools and everything to plan for that. I don't think they're looking at this plan per se to get their development ideas. They seem to all be separate independent planning entities. Schools used to use birth birth records, and then 5 years out they knew they had to have a kindergarten seat available. I'm not sure they're doing it like that anymore because we've had a lot of changes. But I'm not going to get into specific agencies, but aren't the planning for the agencies done not looking at this plan, not using these numbers? I totally get what Michelle is talking about, and I think she's right on. But I think on the flip side of that, agencies use different metrics for their planning versus what's in this particular document. That's my only point.
I hate to wade into this too much, but I think you're right, Tammy, that I know Parks has their own way of calculating and that they do not look at these numbers. It's hard to say what transportation does or others. I will say that I did look at 19 of the recent applications, and they were down even lower than the 80, lower than the 20%. But I think what Michelle is bringing up is important to understand, and I think that's why John Mooney's addition is critical. So if we're wrong, if the 20% is wrong, we will reach that sooner, and that will trigger a new plan. So I think there's safeguards in the numbers if we're wrong. This is exactly what's in the old plan is the 20%, and maybe Supervisor Alcorn could, I don't know what's used in Tyson's, it may be the same thing, but the old Reston plan, the 2017 did have a 20% reduction in it. But again, if we're wrong, which Michelle could be right, we will just reach the number sooner and it will kick in a new comp plan.
But the other thing is, if you're saying that, John, it's likely to me that they're going to be lower.
Well, that's what I think too. I think the numbers these numbers are still higher than you would expect. And that there's a couple other touch points. We've been to the census about this, and the staff numbers are almost exactly the same as this. So we have confidence in the numbers, but we also have a backup. So Michelle's right as well. But I think what John Mooney is adding is important.
Right. It gives you a chance to go back and look at this. And,
Yes.
And
I don't think that we need to vote on a follow-on motion to be made by Supervisor Alcorn. I think it's just an understanding, and I think that the motion that I'd like to make is that the language is presented in this draft be accepted.
Okay.
I would second that motion.
Thank you,
Right.
Gary.
The motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Additional discussion?
I would like the follow-on motion included in this.
Me too.
As a safeguard, because I think Michelle's right on target. I think it needs to be included. I don't see any.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to accept the language that is proposed in the draft land use chapter with the understanding that John Mooney's proposal for a follow-on motion be made by Supervisor Alcorn.
Thank you.
All right.
So forgive
Did
me,
Gary
but
did you want to update your second? Thank you.
I'll second your update.
Yep. Discussion, Michelle?
it's hard to know without knowing what John Mooney's follow-on motion would be. I mean, John Carter, you mentioned it would trigger a new plan.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the language in Tyson's currently does?
No, my understanding, I've reread that recently, and it simply says that the comprehensive plan will be reviewed to see if there's need for a change in the light of unanticipated development.
And following on this is David. What if we eliminated the sentence about assuming a 20% reduction in the future build environment? If we just eliminate that sentence or that comment and include John's not follow-on motion anymore, but or maybe it would be, yeah. Include that. Don't we arrive at the same place without all the confusion and the potential for arriving at that point sooner than we expect?
I don't agree. I think we should keep that in and add John Mooney's. This is the language that we like. I think the 20% is important as a, sort of a goal, but I think John Mooney's addition needs to be there as well.
Right, but David, the problem with that is then the graph underneath is not explained. I think it's my understanding that this language is to better explain the graph and why 20% is used there. Is that right?
Yes.
Running away from you. I mean, I think we have to, I mean, we have to also ask ourselves, I mean, is it fair not to not include what the possibility could be? Because right now we're presenting a picture that, again, just may not be the possibility because there's nothing in this language actually caps anything.
Well, I think this is a realistic perception. I mean, this is the most likely.
Yeah, I think you need to comment on that last point, John. What Michelle.
I mean, most analyses, you've got worst case scenario, best case scenario, and most likely. So what this is kind of the most likely.
I like it as it is. Let's go ahead and call the question.
I was muted. Any additional discussion? Okay.
I would like to see the language included that John Mooney would include in the follow-on included here in the text.
Okay. Do you want to, Lynn, can you try to capture that?
Yes. Do you
And
want to
John?
share that? Do you want to
Yeah.
repeat,
John,
John Mooney?
That
Let's see.
the task force recommend that.
Wait. Sorry.
And forgive me, I think I wasn't clear. I think we could include it in the plan text. I don't think it has to be a separate follow-on motion.
What? I
Is that what we're doing?
don't think the comprehensive plan is the place to put a follow-on motion. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
I
this
think-
is assuming a 20%, so you could just include a sentence afterwards. If the 20% is not realized, a new plan would be triggered.
Well, you have to put that it's being tracked.
Yeah, Michelle, that's a little extreme because the 20% dwelling units, even if that number turns out to be off a little bit, the other assumptions about how many people are living in those units and other things are going to come into play as well.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
It's well then it does the same thing that a follow-on motion would do. So I'm not sure why it would be any different. Just stating here that if the 20% doesn't pan out,
John, would you please give me the follow-on motion language?
Yes.
That Supervisor Alcorn at the adoption of the comprehensive plan make a follow-on motion to require a monitoring of actual development and re-estimates of population to determine whether amendments to the comprehensive plan are required.
I'll go back to the video and get your language exactly right.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
John Carter, does that make sense? And Walter, does that make sense?
Yes, for me.
I understand it, yeah.
I
Interesting
agree.
discussion.
I agree with the language, but I also agree with Michelle that it doesn't need to be a follow-on motion. This is guidance that we are suggesting that be done. I don't see any reason why we can't include it in this text.
David and Michelle, let me explain my thinking. First of all, monitoring language frequently is made part of a follow-on motion rather than a comprehensive plan text. Secondly, and I don't want to get into this, but I've reviewed I've reviewed all these things. That any of you who know me at all know that I've been a dog on population for 5 years, and I've also reviewed the estimates that Clara Johnson did when she gave the presentation to us in February 2021 on population projections. And she did a sample of six actual developments. Some were over the planned density, some were under. The ratio of actual approved density to planned maximum density was 65%. So I've also looked at the new data that John Carter has referenced, 17 or so major projects since the 2014-15 plan. And as John said, they are well below 80. So despite a great deal of skepticism on my part for those two reasons, namely, typically monitoring provisions or recommendations are frequently put in follow-on motions, and secondly, because of actual data we have on the actual ratios of approved density versus comp plan possible density, I do not think there is a great risk so long as we have ongoing monitoring.
Can
With-
I have a break in here and give you a practical, and Walter, you can tell me if I'm right. I think a follow-on motion triggers a Board of Supervisors' ability to fund the tracking. Is that correct? And we want to be sure that the tracking is funded so that it gets
Right.
done. So I think that's why you elevate it or change it to a follow-on versus verbiage within a plan. Walter, am I off base there?
No, that's right. I mean, if it's not a board direction specifically, it might get funded, but it's mixed in with all the other priorities. Typically, if it is a board direction, then it would require some other action by the board to not do it.
I think that's why a follow-on motion carries more weight than just including it in the plan. Seems bizarre, but that's, I think, the reality of our system. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
I agree. Let's keep it as a follow-on.
So I think
Okay.
that I'm sorry, but I do think that, the actual monitoring and funding can be done in a follow-on, but the trigger is the key. And that should be a part of the plan if we're assuming 20% and we're presenting that to the public. Additionally, I mean, John, I looked at some of those numbers too. Jen shared them with me. That doesn't include most of the redevelopment and rezoning that's occurred because they're still building right now. So we don't know what the final number is going to be. And also the 65% that was spread out over a range of properties that had different densities. And it's very difficult to compare those properties and combine them into one.
Right.
I think the follow-on motion
Yeah, it takes care of that.
is the answer to the conflict that is, and this is, of course, anytime you put anything in writing that has numbers associated with it, it is a snapshot in time. Those numbers are always changing. So I think that we do have a motion on the table and a seconded, and I'm going to hand it back to Walter.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone understands the motion. Any questions?
So the motion,
restate it?
Yes. The motion is to accept the residential and non-residential calculations and that section. So this is the new wording with Mike Jennings additions and the understanding that John Mooney's suggested language for a follow-on motion will read what he wrote, what he said during the meeting. What's the problem?
Yeah, you kind of faded out for about 15 seconds there, Lynn, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. You're back.
I think we're good. Let's vote, please.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of Lynn's motion, get ready to put your electronic hands up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, count 12 in favor.
Thank you.
Put your hands down, please. All opposed, please put your hands up electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. See 2 opposed and abstentions. Abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I see 2 abstentions.
I think David Vanel's had his hand up for the against and the abstention.
Yeah.
Hey, David, which way you want to go?
Yeah, I'm up for all three.
Sorry about that. It was my mistake, and I would vote against.
Okay, so 12 in favor, 2 against, 1 abstention. I believe.
Thank you, Walter.
All right.
I think
thank
it's
you.
11 and 3.
All right, 11 and 3. Okay, okay, it passes. Thank you.
All right.
Need to vote for
Um,
the add-on.
Yes, that was
The-
in there.
So Lynn,
Yeah, the add-on was part of it.
at this
Good.
point, Lynn, I'm going to have to leave the meeting and get over to the planning commission. So
Okay, John, thank you so much. I think the majority of what we have left has already been reconciled
yes, I
with
think you're in
staff.
good shape.
So
So
there may be 1 or 2 other
congratulations.
items.
Congratulations. I think we're close to having a land use plan.
Yes, thank you.
Land use
Thank
chapter.
you for all your hard work.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so the land use map, so modifications are in the process of being completed. We know that the GIS staff at the county offices are understaffed, and there's, I think, an 8-week lag in getting revisions done. And of course, we can go ahead and do mock-ups as necessary, but we have been in communication with Bill Mayland, and he's serving as a fabulous liaison between the comp plan staff and the GIS staff to make sure that all of the maps that are included in the plan are addressed. So Bill, I want to thank you again for your efforts there. The land use legend, again, this is something that we consider reconciled. We've found a discrepancy in the current plan between the land use and the zoning legends. And we feel these should match, so that is going to be corrected. Page 13, this is actually page 7 of the PDF that was sent to you all. This was the where the town center north language, this was concerned that the town center north between the Civic and the Innova parcels was not very clear. So it was reconciled with staff that we would make no changes to the draft text. This is going to get coordinated with the housing chapter. And in addition, there is, of course, a new task force that has been formed that is being spearheaded, I think, by, is it Kate Hanley?
Yeah.
Right.
That is, okay. Are there folks from this task force that have been assigned to that new task force?
No, that task force,
been...
the members are being provided by the associations around Town Center North. So there may be 1 or 2 folks that are on here, but that'll be up to those associations.
Okay, thank you, Walter. That's good guidance to know.
Lynn, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Going back up to land use legend.
Yes.
Which legend are we talking about? Are we talking about the map?
So this is the legend in the land use map. Let me just pull that up.
I mean, there are
so you can
maps
see
for each
it.
of the areas. And
right, this is the big Reston land use map. So we're talking about this legend here.
Okay.
This one is incorrect. So this is going to be corrected.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on page 14. So this is page 3 of the PDF new draft that you all received. We had some corrections from staff recommended. So we went ahead and made those changes. So those should be highlighted in the draft that you've got, but that is a reconciled item.
And
additionally,
and where in the text is this? This is Town Center North?
No, we're on row number 17. So this is page 3 of the new PDF draft. Let me just go to page 3. 2, 3. So this is where we made changes. So instead of no residential uses permitted, so this is to the, I think, convenience centers.
Yes.
Where we said no residential uses permitted. Staff recommended residential uses are not planned. So we have made that residential uses are not recommended has been updated. And then additionally, the Barron Cameron area, we had Home Depot in there. So this was something, the change was made to Home Depot area to reflect name change to Barron Cameron. So that's reconciled. Then page 17, these are all reconciled. I don't know if y'all want to go through these all. I just want to be completely transparent with any of the changes that were made. So this was page 17, which is page 7 of the draft that I sent to you all. Staff comments were that they thought that the task force had decided to divide that into 2 plan areas, Inova and county, but they weren't certain. So that has been changed to Town Center North Mixed Use Area and Town Center North Civic Square. So the text within the document explains each of those areas. And then in office and industrial, so the question was whether we wanted to include institutional there in the title, and we did do that. So that has been reconciled. Thank you for all those edits, Bill. You really did a great job. I don't know who else on the county staff side worked with you on this, but it was great. Okay, so page 38. Now this does require discussion. We didn't get to this last time. So if we have 15 minutes left, I think this would be how we're going to spend it because the rest is all reconciled.
Lynn, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Yes. Will you be able to send out another land use recommendation dashboard with the motions that we have voted on?
If you'd like me to do that, I'll be happy to go back and listen to the exact wording that was presented for each motion and what the result was.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that something everybody would like?
No.
And
That's a lot more work for Lynn, and she's
we know it.
Ahead. Please,
I mean,
we've got it written in the dashboard. You can look it up, Jan.
It's recorded too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, I'll listen to the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're drowning over here.
and Lynn, as far as the items on after your page 38 discussion,
Yes.
there are issues related to those, or at least clarifications. You said they've been reconciled. I'm not sure if they have. So anyway, we
Okay.
can come back. Okay.
Thank you. I would like to spend some time. Let's see. This is page 28. It's, 28. Okay. Okay, I think we got that. This is review current language. Okay, there was some additional language that was requested to be added that would tie this to the community health chapter. And that language is here in the notes. In line with the recommendations in the community health chapter, redevelopment applications are expected to promote the health of the community and serve the healthcare needs of the community by maintaining or expanding the current emergency room capacity and providing more than the required number of affordable housing units. Additionally, affordable senior housing is encouraged through a continuing care facility, and then a reference to the community health chapter is reference for details. Now, there was quite a bit of discussion amongst the working group folks. And again, like village centers, this is one where we did not have complete consensus on the addition of this language in that chapter or the subchapter under Reston Town Center North. And it's specific. I think we wanted to put it, I think at the end
No, Lynn, it's not, we were not accepting this.
No, I'm saying that that was the proposal. I said there are, others that did not, we did not have consensus on this. So I know that many of us have said that we want to leave the text with the exception of the changes that we made to the 150,000 square feet and the 1,000 dwelling units, that we wanted to just leave this language as is and wait for any additional language that comes from the task force. I can share the observations from several on the task force that felt that it was way more prescriptive than it already is. This section was criticized, I think, for being prescriptive and in saying that the civic area, would have the 10 acres of required open space and what that would be inclusive of, expanding the Rucker with 30 traditional or transitional housing units. The argument is that, or I don't know if it's the minority or the majority position, but the two areas are, or the two sides of this coin is that this recommendation for this area is that any redevelopment applications are expected to promote the health of the community. So maintaining or expanding the current emergency room capacity and providing more than the required number of affordable units is language that is recommended to be added. There are others, as I said, that oppose any changes to the existing language, and other members who feel that this requirement or this recommendation is too restrictive.
Can I jump in, Lynn?
Sure.
This came up not too long ago, and it is not what we had had before. We want to keep it to that. That's the understanding a lot of people have of where we're going. Second of all, John Carter is gone, but he believes this from a comprehensive plan perspective is not appropriate in adding the things about housing and the prescription and the way it's written. But also, I don't think it follows along with the joint approach of the county and ANOVA in terms of where we're going and prescribing that ANOVA essentially keep the emergency room is, in my mind, not in line with that agreement, and in practical terms is not workable anyway. They have the ability to make the choices. That's why we've given them, the ability to go to higher numbers in there that include health. So I'm jumping in. I'm sure ANOVA may want to say something about this, but I don't think any of this is from a practical term of what we're doing in Reston Town Center from the total perspective and the ANOVA situation. This is directed at ANOVA, and this, in my mind, shouldn't be in there. Dennis Hayes, others. So
yeah, and Dennis could not be on the call tonight, but
yeah, he talked.
I know his position.
He
now
emphasizes strongly.
The,
so do I, and I'll leave it at
thank you, Gary. The other position on the other side of the coin is that it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, but that there is a development plan that has been adopted that provides for a medical care facility. And if that is the case, then that should be included. Is
it ANOVA property? Tim Sampson is on this, but
Yeah, I'm still here if
hi, Tim.
if I can jump in. Sure. I think
Sure.
the development plan it must be a reference back to the development plan that's very now decades old that reflects the existing facility. But that, and as Gary said, the Innova has long asked for that opportunity for the non-residential square footage that we were talking about earlier, with the idea in mind that it may replace the emergency department in the ground level of a building someday. And so that's completely consistent with what we've been thinking all along. Turning that into a requirement, however, is a game changer. And I think for the reasons Gary said, we'd agree it's not keeping with the spirit of, if you will, kind of keeping Innova with, whole, if you will. And I think that it is also, it would
Whoa.
disincentivize, progress toward implementing, a new plan for Reston Town Center North, because a decision about whether an emergency department is going to be replaced there is going to be driven by all kinds of factors outside of, this conversation or what ends up in the comprehensive plan.
I understand. Tammy, did you have
Lynn?
something?
Hey, Lynn, it's Michelle. Can I also, I've had my hand raised too.
Yes, please, Michelle.
Tim, I'm glad you brought up the idea of, making Innova whole. Part of this is also really, quite frankly, making the community whole. These parcels for the most part are tax exempt parcels. And, part of that trade-off is that these are going to in some way benefit the community from from Innova as the owner, the perspective of promoting community health. This just says that as part of that trade-off, that will be, we're going to continue with that. And we just talked about the population numbers. Our populations are set to possibly double. This is certainly not the time we should be closing medical facilities like the emergency room. Furthermore, we think that it's important to encourage greater facilities and additional providers and greater competition. And so we already have parcels that are designated for health use. Adding, housing on top of that is no issue. In fact, we'd like to see that, encouraging Innova to also address what they've recognized in their own community health needs assessment for the area and the need for affordable housing. So we think this is an opportunity both to, promote the mission and help the community. And we do think that this needs to continue to provide the same level of services and hopefully will encourage greater services on this facility.
So a couple of things, Michelle. First of all, the Innova pays taxes on the Cameron Glen site now because it's not used for purposes that would allow the tax exemption. The use of the Sunrise facility and the emergency department do, and so they are currently exempt. If there were a change in use to residential and away from the emergency department, that would be a taxable use. I don't think there's a parallel. There's between the tax exemption that applies to a particular use and the rest of this. And the idea that you're articulating is one that is consistent with that we've been talking about for years and years out here, but it has to, in my opinion, be set forth as an opportunity in a comprehensive plan, not a requirement. And there's no amount of stating that there must be an emergency department in a comprehensive plan that is going to make there be an emergency department there, right? That is going to be driven by many other factors, kind of market related factors. It's not the same thing as retail, obviously, but it is driven by many of the same factors. It's driven by licensing. It is driven by the proximity to an emergency department at Reston Hospital Center. And I know you know all this, Michelle. So there's, that decision is not going to be driven by what's written in the plan. If it gets written in the plan as a requirement that decision is not ready to implement, and it may never be, then progress will stall because the project won't go anywhere because the plan calls for something that that is not going to be delivered. So I strongly encourage the task force not to make that a requirement, a comp plan for the reasons I've said.
Would it be acceptable, Tim, if we were to, instead of saying redevelopment applications are expected to promote, how's about if we said redevelopment applications are encouraged to promote?
Yeah, I think that, you know, encouragement is fine. I think that, you know, what we want to do is provide the opportunity, right? And so if you say that and again, I think that's consistent, and to Gary's point, it's consistent with the language that's already there. If there's some words to put around it, it probably works. But the idea is that there's 150,000 square feet of non-residential development capacity there to support the ability to put medical facilities, you know,
Right.
ancillary retail, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, that's what it's going to be. I think that, yeah. So, I mean, if you want to say encouraged, am I going to follow my sword over it? No, because I think it's the same. The same thing's going to happen anyway, right? If the community would prefer there to be one, and we show up one day without one, you're going to encourage it, no matter whether the plan says it or not, and we're going to have to answer for why it's not there. But again, I think that's a lot different than having the plan prescribe
Right.
something that is just not going to be decided by what the plan says.
Hey, Lynn,
I think,
so I'm kind of two minds on this, because I think tossing out some of this language is a wasted opportunity, particularly because we want to try to highlight community health. But I get the idea that perhaps the second half of the sentence is a little prescriptive on exactly what that is. But I would hope anything Inova would do in this area would seek to promote the health of the community and serve healthcare needs. If that's not supportable language, that would be upsetting to me personally as a resident. So I think it's the second half of it that's the thing that's a little concerning, is what that actually takes the form of. And I can understand what Tim's getting at, that may not be as easily articulated in the plan. So, but I think the first part of the language is very much a expectation that we want to see, is that whatever's done here should be promoting the health of the community, which I think was something Michelle expressed earlier, is we want things in Reston that help Restonians. Not that other people won't come to Reston for healthcare needs, but that the community around those healthcare facilities should be able to access and use them, not drive elsewhere.
But can I be clear though that it may be right that even if there is a health facility here, it's a small part of the overall project, right? And it may be that there isn't one there. So I don't want to be it may not be Inova, right, that ends up developing some of this, right? And
But
so
any health service, I would hope, would be seeking to promote the benefit this community that's coming.
but Chris, just to jump in there, it doesn't necessarily have to be across from the existing health hospital. It could be elsewhere in Reston.
Right, Gary, but this is where Inova owns property. And Tim, you know, I mean, it's been difficult to even figure out how Inova obtained the property too. But I mean, I think that there is more here to just being, you know, at least it appears that, you know, in some respects, it did come from the community with an expectation. And so I think that expectation, as Chris said, should remain.
no, I
And
don't.
so
Let's be careful. There are not deed covenants on that property about saying that it needs to be put to some sort of medical or other use, right? So I'm not sure where that is headed.
Yeah, and I just think there's a lot of people that I hear from that say, why are we having that here? Why is it somewhere else in Reston? So it doesn't mean that the healthcare is all dependent on the Inova blocks here. As we hope they would have something, and we've given them medical uses, and we give them the 150,000. But I think the entire, what we've done on Reston Town Center North is Innova's going to make some of those choices. They're going to go through a whole process here with the community as we go through this. So requiring that is not what we've been talking about all along here. and it's not, I
Well,
think.
Gary, that's fine, but you know, we're adding a health chapter now. So you didn't have this part of the conversation included prior to this. And maybe
Well-
Inova does move to another site within Reston, but right now they own this property. And I think there is an expectation that it be maintained for community health. And I mean, I think, Tim, you're making it clear that there's a possibility you could sell to the highest bidder and get out completely. What we're saying is no, that's not the intention for this site. This should
So let me,
still meet the community health's needs.
Well,
but
we
let me
have
be,
the entire
but let me be
agreement we
very
have with
clear,
Inova.
right? If the purpose of this, if the, of the comp plan is to compel Inova not to dispose of its property, that we're, you know, you really have to ask what you're doing on the whole opportunity to implement Reston Town Center North.
I
Right?
don't think,
That's,
I mean, that's not it. You can sell it to another provider. We're not saying that you have to stay here by any
no,
means.
you're, the constraints that you're suggesting putting on the property by doing this are going to very much chill the opportunity to implement Reston Town Center North. If
Well,
there
if
is
your
not,
idea of
if there's
Reston
not
Town
a,
Center North does not include a health component on this side on the private side, then I don't know what else to say. Right now, we currently have an emergency room. I don't think that
there is nothing about that current emergency room that requires it to be there forever. And and that's fundamentally, I mean, that's what this comes down to. If there were to be a requirement for a particular use to remain there forever, put in the comprehensive plan, that would, I think, very likely slow the ability to implement Reston Town Center North. You cannot just make it so by writing it into the plan.
And
Well,
just-
walking the
Supervisor,
middle
can
between the
can we
two.
have some other people chime in? Because I don't think Michelle speaks for the whole task force here, and it's kind of
Well,
dominating.
that's what I'm trying to suggest is this language that Lynn separated out is much
So
more
this is,
neutral
so,
in scope than prescriptive.
so the question is, you know, is this language, so redevelopment applications are encouraged to promote the health of the community and serve the healthcare needs of the community, and refer folks to the community health chapter for details, as opposed to adding the prescriptive language on how they promote the health of the community and serve the healthcare needs. So what I'm hearing from the discussion is that this language is more acceptable to Inova and hopefully others on the task force. The other option is just to leave it out, to leave the chapter draft language as is.
That's what I would prefer.
The healthcare should be all together. It should be all in one place, and I think it should be designated for healthcare, no matter who is in there.
Yeah, this is Bill. My understanding is Inova and the county did a land deal. And unless that deal said, and thou shalt use your property forever to provide healthcare services, I don't think that's something we can encourage it. That's fine. We'd like to see it, yes, but I don't think we can compel a particular property owner to do a particular thing like this in a comp plan.
And that's what
So-
John Carter would say too.
Hey,
Yeah.
Gary, you've had your turn. Let other people talk, please.
Tammy?
I am offended as hell at Tim Sampson talking about stomping his feet and walking away if all of the conditions that Inova wants aren't granted. And I would like, I mean, do you want to open the door of how Inova got the property to begin with? It was 50 acres given by Simon to the county for civic uses. Did you
Come on, let's stick to the topic here, Tammy. That's crap.
this goes to just because it doesn't agree with you. Sorry, but you know, I think Michelle has
Isn't this a separate task force?
about having health news. Now, I'm not certain that that her specific language has to be the right language, but I'm offended that we're not going to get to a deal if you're going to put any constraints on. We want to be whole. What does whole mean? Did you pay for this property, or were you granted it because you were providing civic uses, a nursing home, an emergency room, and a continuing and an assisted living that were not there, that were precedent before Reston Hospital Center?
The
So
property was paid for. And I, you know, I regret that I've left you the impression that I'm stomping my feet and threatening to take my ball and go home. I'm trying to inform this discussion that if you constrain the property by a use that is going to go there based on circumstances that have nothing to do with whether it says so in the comprehensive plan, the likely effect of that is going to be to chill the ability to move this forward. It's just a fact. It's not a threat. It's not I'm not stomping my feet. It's just.
Can you explain why you think that it interferes with developing the TSA North? You're saying that,
Because
we do
because
that,
if there
to
if there
interfere
isn't,
with development and the TSA. I don't understand why you would say that.
if you, not in the TSA, right, but in this amalgam of property that is Reston Town Center North, it requires all of this these agreements with the county to unwind and move forward. You pick a different example. I mean, if you decided that there had to be fill in the blank, your favorite grocery store, your favorite movie theater, your favorite whatever, and the market wasn't going to bear that in the location, the property would sit idle either until it did or until the requirement went away. That's all I'm saying.
Reston Hospital is booming. I was just there. It's really, you had to wait in the emergency room for hours just to get admitted into the hospital. Every bed was full for most of the night until the morning.
Can I ask a question? Didn't we already say that this was part of a separate task force?
Not the private side.
Oh,
Okay, so can we get to a question or a proposal here?
So so the question is, do we, well, I'll make a motion that the Reston Town Center North, let me let's see what this is called. So this would be for blocks 2, 4, and 6, that the language be added that reads, redevelopment applications are encouraged to promote the health of the community and serve the healthcare needs of the community. See community health chapter for details. And subsequent, the community health chapter will provide other details.
Okay, and can I ask whether Innova's attorney agrees with that? Just to make sure I'm clear.
I'm not going to argue with it now. I'm going to we'll have to talk with Innova about it and go for it. I think I've said my piece.
So Tim, would it be better for us to defer this?
Seconded. There's a motion on the floor.
All right, okay.
And I second it, by the way.
All right. There's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I don't think encouraged goes strong enough. And I don't think that this reflects what we had proposed previously. I mean, the only thing that this is going to hold back is healthcare. If we include language that's stronger to say that it's expected to promote the health of the community, the only thing it would hold back is non-healthcare facilities. And non-affordable, unaffordable housing. That is it. So I just think that this is, doing something that we really is not in the best interest of the community.
I think it is in the best interest of the community, Michelle. And also, I think it is what we've been proposing, we've been talking about for whatever, as long as we've been talking about this. So those two things are consistent, and it is getting to a better place for, Reston Town Center North and Innova's general support for healthcare in the community and in Reston. So,
Like it is expected.
well, the expected is kind of as Tim has pointed out, you can't have that in this. John Carter would be opposed as well. So,
Well, John's not here to say that. You can have expected language. And remember, this is a say property, also in the PRC.
so at any rate, I think we need, if you want to talk about the encouraged vote, we have, I guess, we can talk about that encouraged vote.
Okay, well, the motion on the table, I believe, is whether or not to add the language that's been highlighted by Lynn there on the screen. It says redevelopment applications are encouraged to promote the health of the community and serve the healthcare needs of the community, and then in parentheses, see community health chapter for details.
That sounds great. Sounds
So,
great.
heard a pro and a con, so let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of adding that language that I just read, please raise your hands electronically. And by the way, John and Michelle, your hands are up. So, yeah, there we go. Please raise your hands electronically if you're in favor of the motion in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count, hold on, let's move in. Okay, I count 7 in favor of the motion to add the language. Okay, go ahead and take your electronic hands down. All opposed to adding the language that I read, please raise your electronic hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Michelle, did you vote twice?
No, she put her hand down the first time and then.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Jane. Okay, 4 opposed. Okay, all in favor of, or sorry, all abstaining on this motion, please put your electronic hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just 1 abstention. Okay. All right, that motion passes, Lynn.
Okay, thank you, Walter. And, again, this is going to be coming up for public review as well. So there are going to be opportunities to weigh in, but thank you. And I know, Tim, you're going to be bringing this back to your client, and I'm sure we will be hearing more on this.
You will. Thank you for allowing me to participate this evening. I do appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have time to take a few more of these for review? And Bill, you can stop me when we get to the one that you're suggesting has some issues.
Yeah, Lynn, let me just ask, we're past at 7:16. What's the pleasure of the task force? We're down a few folks.
Okay.
I say we defer to the next meeting when we
Lynn,
might have more attendance.
Okay, so I'll mark this. Let me just mark this area as where we're going to pick up.
Okay, good.
So this is where we'll pick up next time.
Lynn, thank you for your flexibility on that. And thank you to the task force members. Tammy, I know we said we were gonna save time to talk about the other subgroups. Tammy, what's your pleasure at this point?
I would heartily suggest, Lynn, how much time do you think we need on the rest of this? Do you have a clue?
Well, if it's up to me, we're probably going to need 30 minutes since all of these are reconciled. I don't know what Mr. Penniman is
Okay.
concerned about. So,
So, okay, given that,
30 minutes.
so let's just say an hour to be safe. Yeah. Yeah. Realist here.
Yeah.
I would like to put equity on the docket for next time, please.
Okay. All right. Any objections to that?
Has that been circulated again? I don't know what version we're dealing with.
Well, that's a good question.
It'll have to be circulated.
Yeah, I think you're right. We'll go figure out what the latest was and circulate those. Okay, thank you, Tammy. Any other comments on the next meeting? It sounds like we've got finishing up land use, Lynn, and then let's see if we can get equity scheduled into the next meeting. And Tammy, we'll see if we can get staff here for that as well.
May I make a 15-second comment?
Sure, John.
I just want to go back to make this comment about the discussion on population estimates. And that is, it is my understanding that item 13 has staff is continuing to review and compare, and the action column says it is open with staff. So I anticipate and I hope that staff will come back, before soon with their own final their own final population estimates. I want to see their estimates and the methodology that they used to compute it. Thank you. And I think that is in the dashboard here. In fact, I know it is. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. All right. Very good. Lynn, anything else on land use before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank everyone that served on the land use working group and staff and folks from your office, Walter. It's been a long slog, but I think we're getting there.
We're getting pretty close, I think, Lynn. All right.
And I want to thank Lynn Mulston, who's done,
Yes,
I can't even,
Yeah.
there's no adjective for the
right.
thousands of hours she's put into this.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Lynn. Absolutely.
Probably more than one or two, probably 3 or 4.
Thousands plural.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everybody who's been working on this, and to the whole task force. Let's do break for tonight.
I have a comment I would like to share.
Sure,
I
Jan,
think
go
it's
ahead.
important.
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
on next door, which is a local chat, there is a comment. There is a message from Carol Ellis. Now, Carol Ellis lives in Shadowwood, which is low-income housing, and she is explaining how difficult that is, how horrible, and their comments from other people who live in low-income housing and what they're experiencing. So I urge you all, if you can take a look at it, to get the perspective from their point of view. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jan.
How do we see it? Where is it posted?
It's posted next door. Just go search next door, Reston. It's a local chat thing that people get together and talk about problems in the neighborhoods. And your neighborhood can be added, and then people talk about solutions that they've come up with. So it's really a great way of communicating. Why is the helicopter flying outside? You know,
Is next door a website? Is that
next door is the name of it.
Yeah, it's a website.
Nextdoor.com.
Yeah.
nextdoor.com or nextdoor.org or?
It's an app. It's an app on your phone. Go to your
Or on your
go to your
computer.
app store, download Nextdoor, and sign in, get an account, and then you can read.
It's an app.
Yeah, and Jan, so yeah, my office, I'll ask them to reach out to you as well and make sure they see the comment
Yeah,
on
they'll
this.
send it.
Very much.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, thank you, Jan, thank you, Alvarez.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, all right, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, then let's break for the evening. Thank you all very much, and we'll be back.
One more thing.
Okay, Jan, yes, go ahead.
I'm hoping I will get permission to go back to work on Wednesday, the 27th. So I will be at work, hopefully, on Thursday, the 28th, and may not be able to participate as much as I would like, or if at all. It depends on the situation at work. So I just wanted to make you aware. Mondays and Tuesdays are always better for me. Thank you.
Good to know. Okay, Jan, thank you very much. All right, everybody, everyone have a good evening, and we'll get back together soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.